Hi, welcome to Temple Reef's Insight series, more fishing talk for the enthusiasts like you and me. Today, let's talk a little bit about Ajing. This is a Japanese word because the sport of Ajing originated in Japan. The Japanese used this method to catch horse mackerel, which is a bait fish of about this size. But the technique that they developed to catch those fish can be easily adapted to be used to catch almost any other fish of this sort of size, whether it's saltwater or freshwater, such as small trevallies, scad, herring, and freshwater fish like peacock bass, trout. Basically anything that will take a grub or a worm or a little big fish. Now, this method of fishing is extremely fun because the tackle that we use is very, very light. And it will make a small 2-pound fish on light tackle feel like sometimes like a 50-pound fish on heavy tackle. Now, Ajing fishing works very well, targeting light game fish in all sorts of conditions. It works in the day, it works in the night, it works when other stuff isn't working. And this is simply because of the predatory reflex of light game fish. What I mean is, fish are always looking for easy prey. So if they see a small, slow-moving target that they can scoop up very quickly, they will do that. And that's exactly what the Ajing lure is designed to do. Present a small, weak, dying bait fish that is easy prey for a bigger game fish. Now let's talk a bit about the kind of lures and jigs that we use for Ajing. Now, Ajing fishing is a very finesse form of fishing where we use ultra light tackle. So these are some examples of the jig heads that we use. As you can see, they're really tiny and they go from less than a gram up to maybe 3 or 4 grams with a very fine single hook. And then these are paired with soft plastics or rubber lures that are no more than 4-5 centimeters in length. They come in various designs. You've got standard shads, you've got these things with a straight tail, you have curl tails, double curl tails, paddle tails. Pick your plastic to work with the environment that you're in and with the light conditions and water conditions. Generally, I find that in overcast or cloudy conditions, a darker color works well. On bright sunny days, lighter color or even an almost transparent or translucent lure like this will bring on the bite. Also look at the current. If the current is extremely strong, a curly tail won't work very well because the tail just straightens out and gives a very unnatural action to the jig. Whereas curl tails work well in weak current, where the current isn't pushing the tail so hard and it gives a more natural action. In an extremely strong current, one of these with a straight tail works very well because the action is more natural and not as violent. The leader that goes with this, we use really fine leader, anything from 6 to 8 pounds of fluoro. And because the fish we target are not large, fluorocarbon leader is a must, simply because we cannot let the fish see the leader. And the fish are not big. So we target this fish all across the water column. On the bottom of the column, for the bottom feeders, we also target the middle of the column and the top of the column for the pelagics. So tie the jig directly to your fluorocarbon leader. Your fluoro leader should be about anything from 6 to 8 feet in length. And that's tied to the main line with a FG knot or PR knot. Do not use any swivels, do not use any split rings, no floats. What we want is a completely natural action for the lure. So do not interrupt that action with swivels or floats or split shot or split rings. And then the main line can be anything from 6 pounds to about 10 pounds, and we use extremely small reels. This is a Shimano Sustain 1000 series. This is a Stratic 1000 series. And we use, like I say, 10-pound line, 8 to 10-pound line on these little reels. If you're fishing off a boat, make sure you don't use a shallow spool. Use a full spool because these fish, when hooked, can fight very hard and the tackle is extremely light. So if you have a shallow spool, you run the risk of getting spooled. That has happened to us a few times before. And now let's talk about the rods. Now this is a Temple Reef Grand Opus 6x4 Ajing rod that can be used for Ajing as well as macro jigging and other very light applications. It's an incredibly light blank. This is a super finesse rod. The guides are titanium with torsite rings, and look at this beautiful single foot guide. It doesn't get any lighter or better than this. There is nothing on this rod that is unnecessary, and yet you have everything on the rod that you need to catch fish. Let's weigh this, and it comes in grams at 64 grams, a featherlight 64 grams, and in ounces, an incredible 2.3 ounces. Yeah, and this is the Temple Reef Grand Opus 64, 6x4. Very good Ajing rod. It's also got a solid tip here because a solid tip transmits vibrations better than a tubular tip. It's also more durable and more lasting. So the technique for Ajing, very simple. What you need is a strong current. That helps the most because that's when the predators are biting. And the beauty of the Ajing is, as I'll explain later, the current helps bring your lure to the fish. Okay? So find a spot where the current is strong. You can fish from shore, you can fish off a boat, you can fish from a jetty. If you're on a boat, it's better to fish off an anchored boat than a drifting boat because that's where you get a full effect of a strong current. What you do is drop the jig in the water or cast it out. And don't be disappointed if you can't get much distance on your cast because these jigs are just so light. So what will happen is once you've cast it out, the current will then take over and do all the work for you. Keep the bail arm open with a finger lightly on the spool. Once you cast, wait for anything from 10 to 15 seconds for the current to carry your jig away, and then use your finger to trap the line on the spool every few seconds. So let it run, trap, and then twitch a few times. If nothing happens, again, release your finger, let the current carry your line out some more, trap it, and twitch. And twitch. Now the beauty of this technique is that the current ordinarily will carry small bait fish, like the size of your lure, little fry, little baby shrimp, into places where the predatory fish are waiting. So it could be the head of the reef, could be an eddy in the current, could be a hole in the bottom of the seafloor. So as you're feeding your line out gradually, your little bait will be carried just like any other bait fish into all these places where the predators are naturally waiting. So the incredible thing about Ajing fishing is the current does the work for you in presenting your lure to the predators. Now working your lure this way and working together with nature this way is one of the most effective ways to target small predators that we love for light game fishing. So given that we're using extremely light line in a very finesse technique, and also given that the hooks are very, very fine, set your drag loose at about a third or a quarter of the breaking strain of the line. This is because you don't want to straighten the hook and you don't want to snap your line when the predator takes. Now, the Ajing, because it's the Ajing lure, because it's so small, very often when a fish takes it, it won't even know that it's hooked for the first few seconds. So that's where you need a very sensitive rod and be very attuned to what you're feeling in your rod. So often, the only way you can tell that you have a fish on the line in the first few seconds is when the vibration of the paddle tail stops. Or when you suddenly, or if you're releasing line and suddenly the line just goes out a little bit faster than it was before. That's when you know that you might have a fish on your line. So you have to be extremely sensitive to all these things when you're Ajing fishing. When that happens, you don't need a violent hook set. A simple single set will do, because the hooks are very fine and very sharp, and they will penetrate the mouth of the fish quite easily. then this is where the fun starts. You have a 1 kilo fish or a 2 pound, 2.5 pound fish on fine line like this and finesse tackle. It'll get really crazy. The line will be peeling off your reel, your drag will be screaming, and don't forget the current, which worked for you in the first instance to help present your lure to the fish, has now become your enemy, because the fish is using that same current to peel line off your spool and head in the opposite direction. So in Ajing fishing, very often when we hook up, we're not just fighting the fish, we're fighting the current as well to bring the fish back to the boat. So for all these reasons, make sure your drag is not set too tight, because if it is, you're going to lose the fish. Now, always remember guys, this is finesse fishing. So when you get a fish on the line, especially if it's a biggie, don't high stick the rod. If it pulls and pulls hard, drop the tip of the rod like you're bowing to the fish and just let the fish take line off the reel. Let it tire itself. Don't fight the fish. Don't forget, you're fishing with a very high-end sensitive tackle, not a broomstick and a winch. So don't try and high stick and yank the fish back to the boat. Enjoy the fight. Let the fish take line, enjoy the sound of your drag going off, and then slowly bring the fish in. Okay, and it will run many times and you will enjoy that sensation of your drag going off many times during the fight, and that's what we all live for. So guys, go out and give Ajing fishing a try. You can target any sort of light game fish with this new technique. It's inexpensive, it's clean, it's simple, and you will have a lot of fun. That I guarantee you. We hope you like this chapter of Temple Reef Insights. Subscribe and comment, and we will try and reply when we can. Thank you very much.